You just saw the title of this video and realized that it's Men's Mental Health Month. Now your mind is showing you flashes of pictures of very, very popular female empowerment movements, and yet men's issues don't really seem to be taken seriously. Why is that? It's because of people like Jeffrey and Jess who belittle the men's movement, who say that men's mental health isn't a crisis, who argue against men who simply want equal rights. In the tribe of Adonis, everyone is appreciated. Men, women, and children. I think it's so easy for me to go about this video and make it kind of like an us versus them. Men versus women. Men's movements aren't being taken seriously, but look, like the feminists are making so much movements for women. And I think young men especially, like we have this ingrained inside of us to feel like, okay, women are the enemy. It's so important right now that you adopt this new mindset that is so much more beneficial for you. And it's the mindset that it's not men versus women. It's men plus women versus the problem. It's so easy to take sides and for men to think that women are the problem and, you know, women are toxic and they're all hoes, and for women to think that, oh, men ain't shit and they're all cheaters and they're all liars. And it's very heartbreaking to see like what modern dating is like, what the intersexual dynamics between men and women are like these days. And I think you know that the overwhelming majority of people who are watching this video would say that they are somewhat unsatisfied with their love and their dating life. I think it's very important that we talk about love, dating, and sex when we're talking about men's mental health, because I believe the number one reason for suicide in men is actually divorce or problems romantically. Just over 2 years ago, I didn't even know about mental health. Like I didn't really know it was a thing. You know, you go your entire life staying kind of ignorant of a topic. And I remember like life was hard. I had the symptoms of mental illness without really knowing it was mental illness. And so for example, some of that was binge eating. Now I'm really into fitness. I consider myself like a bodybuilder, like an athlete. I love training. And I even enjoy like the nutritional sides of things and really learning about it. And yet I always struggled for most of like my fitness journey to stay clean on a diet and to not eat junk food. And when I'm talking about binge eating, I'm not simply talking about, you know, sometimes you just want to eat a little bit more chocolate or something. This is like a full-on like condition where you eat till you're sick and then you keep eating and eating and eating and eating. Why? Because something is wrong mentally. Because we crave like this feeling of comfort that being full on food gives us. Binge eating is a very common symptom of the mental illness, anxiety. And the same with taking drugs. I used to smoke weed all day, every day. And just me even saying that doesn't do it justice to make you sort of imagine the life that I was living just 2 years and like 2 months ago. There was a lot of problems. I was procrastinating. I really, really wanted to be productive. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to make online income. I just kept on procrastinating and, you know, pushing my work off, and this idea, oh yeah, well, I'll do it tomorrow, and, you know, I'll do it after this and this and this. And these seem like normal everyday problems that a lot of people have. And now when I look back after the progress that I've made, I understand, okay, they are entirely due to mental health. So what you see in front of you on this video and this entire channel is largely my practice to bring the importance of mental health to more young men around the world, because no one taught me this shit. I was never taught the importance of mental health in school. There might have been like seminars or, you know, some kind of like talk about it on university, but I didn't go because my mental health was too bad. There was no influencer who I looked up to who was actually preaching the importance of things like mental health. So I went about the journey alone, but luckily I found like great resources which are completely free. I'm not even affiliated with them. I make no money from them, but I've mentioned them so many times. And, you know, I'm supposed to give you like the blanket advice that a lot of people, like if someone gives you this advice, I'm gonna get a little bit pissed off, bro, because when I see mental health related content online, I see the same thing, and it makes me feel like a lot of these people are quite disingenuous when like they'll just blanketly just copy and paste the fucking suicide hotline number, like, oh, I'm helping. Oh, but reach out to someone, I'm helping. You've got to understand, like a lot of like people online, like social media creators, they do things for views, they do things for money. And so when I see that shit, I'm just thinking like, bro, shut the fuck up. I know like this might seem weird. Why is Hamza hating on another creator who's like spreading awareness for mental health? It's not so much someone spreading awareness for mental health. It's the same shit I see on Instagram and YouTube where it's like, that's when they talk about it. They talk about it when it's popular and it's hip. And then it's like, oh, well, you know, I'm helping. I'll copy and paste the number in cases. Like, shut the fuck up. They're not helping. They don't give a fuck about you. When you see like some of these celebrities and everything, just copy and paste the suicide hotline number, or like, oh, make sure you talk. They're not helping. They don't give a fuck about the problems. They've never spoke about them before. They just kind of know that it's like a good look. The reason why I get agitated at that is because, quite frankly, a lot of people aren't going to call that number. I didn't. A lot of people, you know, you hear this advice, oh, well, make sure you seek help from a qualified therapist, bro. The majority of people are never going to seek help from a qualified therapist. Depression and anxiety runs deep inside of so many people that they just kind of live with it as such a... like an unhappy, it's bleak existence, just doing the same things every day, hating their lives but not finding the willpower to change. Maybe I'm just kind of angry at this whole thing because that stuff didn't work for me. When I was like in the worst period of my mental health, I would see like these edgy videos and these Instagram celebrities trying to help, and I would kind of like see through it. And even then, even in my worst days, like I would never think of like calling a fucking number and speaking about it. It would help, of course it would. Getting a therapist would help, of course it would. But the majority of people who have these problems are so far like past that point. They're so down bad and so like like when you have mental illness and you have depression, anxiety, and even things more extreme than that, it's not easy to just fucking call someone, oh well, I'll copy and paste, this Instagram celebrity copied and pasted the suicide hotline number, that'll really help me. Like, it would help you, but it might largely be like a solo journey up until you gain that level of like confidence and comfortability with what you're dealing with. I'm saying all this now, like it feels weird for me to say this because people are technically raising awareness, and that's always nice, but I'm just fucking salty because that shit never worked for me. And there was something that worked for me, and it was self-improvement. It was understanding that mental health is kind of like a skill that you can level up. So remember in video games, we used to have skills that, we'd level up in our character. And how would we level up? How do you level up in a video game? Well, you get XP, experience. So, so if you wanted to level up your wood cutting skill in RuneScape, you would get experience by like chopping down trees. And every tree that you chop down, you get 15 experience, and you'll be close to a level that way. And if you kept on doing that for like 3 hours, then you level up and you'd be like a higher woodcutting level. Now you're better at woodcutting. You need to see mental health and even everything else in life, like your physique, your confidence, your social skills, your ability to attract the opposite sex. Literally everything in life is kind of like a skill that we used to have in video games. What level are you? What level are you in the mental health skill? How much leveling up, power leveling, how much experience have you gained in the skill? How many books have you? Be totally honest. Don't just, let these words flow past you and think, nope, he's not talking to me. If you want this video to help you, really question yourself right now. Have humility and question yourself. How many books on mental health have you read? How many hours of meditation have you done? How many pages, how many notebooks have you filled with journaling? How many times have you told someone around you that you love them? How many times have you went in for the hug first? That's how you gain XP in the mental health skill. And it's such a shame that no one's really taught you this before, especially in some, like an understandable way. A lot of like the, mental health and psychiatry and psychology, they've got like professionals who don't speak in like a realistic, relatable way. So I hope this comes across. Like, this is how I was able to actually make some progress in this. I saw it like, okay, it's a video game, and so I need to gain XP in my mental health skill. How do I do that? Well, a lot of people are saying meditation, but it doesn't work for me. I tried meditation, like my thoughts just kept on going, so it doesn't work. And I reframed my mind with things like meditation. I thought, okay, maybe meditation is a skill by itself, and when I sit down to meditate, I'm gaining experience in the meditation skill. But of course, it doesn't feel like it works for me because I'm a low level. So when you're a low level in a skill in a video game, you're not like good at the thing, are you? So if you've got like archery as a skill in a video game, it's like you're doing it at first and you're gaining some experience, but you're like really bad at it. You keep like missing on the monster, or you don't like do much damage on the monster when you first start off. And it's the same with meditation. It's the same with everything in our life. Is literally like a skill in a video game. So I thought, okay, well, I've just got a low level in this meditation skill, but I'm sure that every time I sit down, I'm gaining some like invisible XP that doesn't feel like it's working right now. But if I just trust the process like I used to in video games, I'm sure I'll get better. And it did. It's absolutely fundamental for you to understand something which I'm about to say, which a lot of people will find heartless. Your mental health is largely in your control. Your actions, your daily actions, largely dictate your mental health. Now, genetics might be involved, but some people say like some people are way more predisposed to be depressed, and of course like societal factors, like your country might be in war or you might be in poverty, and that's of course going to impact it. But what I like to believe, which some people don't like this, but my mindset is, okay, forget about anything that you can't change, forget about anything that you have no control over. Now, if you imagine that 100% of the things in your mind, the reason for problems with mental health, is totally under your control, and you start thinking, okay, well, what is under my control in terms of feeling better mentally? Well, I could improve my sleep, I could eat cleaner foods, because that's literally been shown, like your diet has an impact on your mental health. Of course it does. I could stop taking drugs. I could take some time away from Instagram and porn and TikTok and YouTube and these dumbass self-improvement videos if they're not helping you. I could consume more positive content, more inspiring content. I could learn more about mental health, and surely learning about it would also help me to improve it. I could spend 5-10 hours over the next couple of weeks, over the next day, the next 3 days, literally specifically just typing in mental health guide onto YouTube, typing in how to meditate onto YouTube, and watching like 10 different videos to really really get it down. Okay, this is how you do it. That's what I had to do. There was a resource that was absolutely fundamental for me, and it's this free online course by like some university, like Yale University. It's like this professor's made this course. It's all for free and everything. It blows my mind how it's for free because the quality of it is very good. And it's called The Science science of well-being. So this professor who's made this course goes over, like tons of those like research articles that have like researched like participants in study groups and stuff to literally find out like the scientific explanations for happiness and well-being. And she breaks down the myths that we all have about happy. Like if I ask you right now, why aren't you happy and how could you be happy? The overwhelming majority of people would say that they would be happier if they made more money, they lost some weight, they had a better house, a better job, they had a better car, they got better grades. What's interesting is that all of those things actually are found out to have a very, very, very insignificant / no impact on your well-being. How interesting is that? You've always heard that thing of like that there's a successful millionaire who's still depressed and there's like a broke person who's really happy. So does money create happiness? And it kind of does. You've probably heard of this figure before, that up until about $70,000 a year, and it changes depending on which country you're in. So of course, if you're in a less wealthy country, then the 70,000 may be like the equivalent of $20,000 or $30,000. But there's essentially like a certain number. So it's $70,000 in the US. I believe it's about £50,000 in the UK. That after that, you don't really see much of a difference in terms of like mental health improvements. So there is a bit of like a motivational factor to make more money, because the majority of people aren't on $70,000 in the US or $50,000 in the UK. I think average in the UK is like 30,000, which really means that there is actually more happiness, more mental health to be gained if you increased your income. And that's something that I wholeheartedly preach for. I preach for entrepreneurship and working hard, being productive. But what was really, really interesting in this course was the studies that they brought up to show, okay, what actually has the highest impact on your mental health? What has the greatest ROI? And this should get you interested when you really think about it. This should really get you interested. What has the greatest ROI? What's the fastest, most impactful way for you to improve your mental health? And there's a couple of things, they really surprised me, quite frankly, because none of them were actually in my mind when I was trying to improve myself. And they are mindfulness, kindness, gratitude, social connection, exercise, sleep, and diet. Mindfulness comes from meditation, and we all have, like, trust me when I say, oftentimes you see like a YouTuber talking to the camera, you don't really take it personally. Trust me when I say, you have a very low level, a corrupted level of mindfulness. Why? Mindfulness is your ability to stay present. It comes from meditation. Of course, you can be mindful without meditation, but it comes from meditation, and it's ruined, it's destroyed by modern technology. It's destroyed by sort of the modern addictions we have on TikTok and Instagram. Why is that? Because our ability to focus is a skill. Everything's a fucking skill, right? When we are scrolling down on Instagram, we see a new piece of content, like a new piece of information, which is like very important to us. It doesn't say, oh, Instagram's not important, but truthfully, if you think about it from like an evolutionary, like psychology perspective, when we scroll down on Instagram, what do you see? Ass. Attractive people in your tribe. What are they doing? We need to know. That's a fucking fundamental need of humanity, of animals in general. We need to know what other people are doing. Don't you see these software developers know that we have these like innate desires to like know what the tribe's doing? We need to catch up because that means we're good friends, and that solidifies my safe place in the tribe. We can't not have a good amount of likes because that puts us at like this fragile place because people don't value us. I feel so fucking safe right now that I've got 60,000 Instagram followers. I post a fucking selfie, I get 10,000 likes. I feel awesome. I feel so safe. We're not really aware that this is going on, but this is truly going on. Of course it is. Of course that means a lot to us. And we see something like that every 0.5 seconds on Instagram. What's your friend doing? Oh, they've just had a baby. Make sure you congratulate them, because otherwise your place in the social hierarchy will be moved down. Look, ass, reproduce, quick. Look, a muscular guy, he's got more testosterone than you. Let's spike you full of cortisol and make you feel like shit. And so it's very, very addictive being on these platforms. YouTube is the same, but I would argue that YouTube is probably like the best social media because you can have content like this, which is like long form, and it's not like fucking like your mental health. We're able to get really deep. If you commit yourself to watching like a long, helpful video like Andrew Huberman's podcast, or like a Tim Ferriss podcast, or the School of Greatness, or a First Man video, or maybe a Hamza video, if you watch like a long video which you can like commit yourself to, that has like a very large impact on your life, and hopefully it's like some positive, inspiring content. So by using modern technology like social media, like Instagram, we're training our brain, we're training the skill of focus to change our focus every 0.5 seconds. Does that make sense? Because imagine if like technology and shit didn't exist, our ability to focus would be higher, because imagine like the guys who used to read newspapers. Well, the content doesn't necessarily change on a newspaper up until you change the page, and maybe changing the page takes like 5 minutes to read the entire thing. And so you train yourself by reading the newspaper to have a good amount of focus on what you're reading. But we literally are training ourselves to have a poor level of mindfulness because we're on these hyperstimulant platforms. I fell victim to that, and I'm ashamed to say that I've even like created content like that, which is so fucking hyperstimulant that like would have sucked your mindfulness experience out of you. To become more mindful, which mindfulness, like I can't even explain, like it seems like a weird thing that you might not know so much about right now, but if you could just put your trust in me, it'd take me too long to cover the benefits of mindfulness. Just think of that word mindfulness. I'll explain more and you'll learn more in the future, but just keep this in mind. It's the single greatest thing that you could cultivate in your life, honestly, because it is step zero of everything else. If you're not mindful, you're not present, you're barely alive. You know, you meet those people who just aren't present at all. Like they're always AFK, like they're just fucking fighting demons in their mind all the time. You even take them to do something fun and they're just in their mind all the time. They need to go on their phone. They're not alive. They're AFK. Like we used to say in video games, AFK means like away from keyboard. It's kind of like they're away from IRL. They're away from like fucking life right now, just like fighting demons in their mind, thinking about memories, anxious about things that's gonna happen. You can't connect with someone like that. Someone like that doesn't get love. Someone like that doesn't get praise. Someone like that doesn't perform well. They eat and they don't even get pleasure of the thing that they're eating because they're AFK. And so of course they overeat. There was like some random study I remember seeing that mindfulness was actually the most successful diet you could go on. How interesting is that? So all these diets we know, fucking keto and high protein, all this, you know, all the kind of diets and calorie, all that stuff, right? A simple mindfulness based program. So participants are literally just told how to meditate, and they're told to meditate every single day, was more effective than like the professional, like personal trainer kind of like fitness enthusiast type of shit. Because most people are AFK, most people eat AFK. All that shit food that we overeat is because we're literally not consciously even thinking about it. We're like elsewhere, we're eating it whilst feeling guilty as fuck, so we don't get that level of pleasure that we wanted from it, and so you keep overeating. To improve your level in mindfulness, to gain more of the benefits of mindfulness, you need to meditate. You need to do things that retrain your focus to be able to stay for longer, which literally just means, okay, get the fuck off Instagram, bro. Get off TikTok, get off Twitter, for all places, man. It's like, I don't know if this means a lot to you, but just know that this guy, Hamza, on this YouTube channel has lost like a little bit of respect for you if you use Twitter. It's by far, like, I don't understand what the fucking big deal is. It's like a bunch of people who think they're being intellectual and they're talking about like politics and like, oh, Silicon Valley, and like, oh, I'm smart, and like, oh, I'm the marketing guy. Shut the fuck up, bro. It's like Twitter's the biggest cope social media in my opinion, because we know the other social medias are garbage. We know that Instagram's garbage. We know that TikTok's garbage. But Twitter has this like cope where it's like, oh no, but it's actually productive because I follow like these wise people who are giving, shut the fuck up, bro. It has this guise that is productive, and it reels in more like intellectual people who are literally just dumbing themselves down. You need to get away from those things and go back into the real world. Go back into nature without your phone. And I know that this advice seems kind of silly, and hopefully like you can, you know, your brain starting to process and thinking, wait, that would be good for me, because this is advice I've been saying on these videos for about 2 years, and the thousands of men who have taken it say that it's changed their life. And it's something like, you know, it's that simple. Now, if, you know, I could tell you right now, like, oh, make sure you buy my product, or, you know, make sure, oh, like, that's why this video is sponsored by this thing and I get committed, like, oh, you guys should get, I've fucking seen this and it pisses me off. People make videos on mental health, you know, trying to act like authentic and shit, and, you know, mental health is so important, and they're like, oh, well, that's why I've partnered up with this therapy company. Therapy's really important. Fuck you. I've got nothing to sell you, literally. Yeah, 100% I'm making money because you're watching this video, so hopefully you're gaining like value from that. Hopefully you want to watch till the end, so that benefits my business. Fair enough. But like, bro, I'm not gonna fucking turn around and sell you something here. Just keep an eye out. Like, you know, you're consuming this kind of content, you're active on like YouTube and stuff, bro. Just know what kind of person is selling you what kind of products and in what kind of video they're doing that, because yeah, there's a lot of like bullshit out there. One of the things I pride myself for is that I've sent, I believe, maybe more than 10,000 young men to a meditation app. So there's like apps that you can use, you know, like mobile apps that you can use to guide you through meditation. Because obviously for like, if you've never done it before, it's kind of like weird. Imagine like a guy who's literally never been to the gym. Of course, you've got experience, so you kind of have this bias, but imagine someone who's never been to the gym, doesn't even know what the fucking bench press is, doesn't even know what dumbbells are or anything, and walks in and then doesn't know what to do. Are they gonna have a good workout? Of course not. So to begin meditating, to improve your levels of mindfulness, you'd want to follow some kind of guide, and you can literally just find them on YouTube. It's as simple as like, just search meditate on YouTube and you'll find one. What I suggest is there's mobile apps, so you can do whatever one you want, but there's a mobile app that's completely free. It's made by volunteers, and it's the one I've always used. It's like the one that worked for me from the start, so I have a sense of like sentimental sort of attachment to them. And recently I was just on like an interview. They interviewed me for their brand new YouTube page because I've sent so many people towards them, and the app is called Medito, Medito, Medito. It's completely free. They've said on the app like it's going to be free forever. It's literally like a charity kind of thing, and it's a phenomenal, like, very clean app. The reason why I suggest this app over the other ones that you may have seen or you might be using, they've got nothing to sell you. I think that's very important. Like, I never fucked with the mainstream apps like Headspace and Calm and Insight Timer. I would go on them and the first thing I see is like, oh, well, 1 month, 7 days for free, 1 month, £70. Are you going to pay? We'll give you more of the thing that could save your life if you're going to pay us. That seems pretty fucky to me. That seems very fucky to me. So I never vibe with those apps. And plus, when I would even use their free trial, like, I'm not paying for that shit, bro. But when I would like use them for the free trial, thinking, oh, well, if it's amazing, maybe I'd consider paying. Like, I don't like pay, it's weird paying for something like which has got like a subscription model, even though if it's not that expensive, it's just kind of like there's a barrier to that. But even I'd use those apps, Headspace and stuff, and I never fucked with them. But Medito is just like simple, it's clean, it's like my personality, where it's like it's just no BS, there's no like wishy-washy shit of like that they're saying to you. It literally just takes you through the step-by-step. Like, you'll play the audio and the audio ranges from like 3 to 20 minutes, who you choose, and it just kind of like takes you, okay, how to meditate, that's it. It just reminds you, okay, this is how you do it. The other ones I found, they just add in extra stuff, which I'm just thinking, okay, why am I listening to this? I'd rather just like do it silently in my mind and just keep reminding myself to like focus on my breath. Meditation changed my life, and I know that it has like this thing online where a lot of like, 5 a.m. CEOs are telling you to meditate, and a lot of people then say like, no, it's BS, you don't need to, and it's like this and this. It personally worked for me, and maybe it won't work for you, but if your personality, if you're kind of like similar to me, or especially younger me, there's a chance that you might not resonate within you. There's a lot of people I've spoke to who literally say like, no, they don't want to meditate, they hate it, they're not even open to it. I hope that you could be open to it, because it truly, like, I wouldn't be like, I don't gain, do you get what I mean? Like, I don't gain anything from the reason why I've spoke about meditation hundreds of times on my YouTube channel is because it truly, like, it very, very much did like create a positive impact in my life. And there's so many different ways that it did. Remember I mentioned before that I used to binge eat. I haven't binge ate in over 2 years now. That's such a simple sentence, what I've just said. You don't even know like the significance of that. I haven't binge ate in over 2 years. I used to do it like 3 to 4 times a week, and it's been over 2 years since I've done that. Like, when you eat and you're literally fucking so full, so sick, and you just keep eating because of this thing of like, bro, I've got to finish the food, and like, you have that subconscious need to like feel safe to be full. That makes me emotional, man, because that literally was like one of my like biggest problems in life, especially because I'm like so into fitness, and when you eat like an extra 5,000 calories one night, you feel like shit because of it. I take it for granted the position I'm in right now, because this is the first time in a little while where I've kind of reminded myself, like, think about your fucking progress. I haven't binge ate, which used to be my biggest problem. I haven't binge ate in 2 years. That's a very, very good feeling. And honestly, I owe all of that. I owe 90% of that to meditation. And the other 10% I'd say is like learning more about nutrition. That really helped me too, in terms of like removing binge eating from my life. But now the second thing that course, the Science of Wellbeing, really breaks down as an important part of mental health is kindness. And that's quite interesting. It seems like common sense, but you don't really think about it. Kindness, an act of kindness, be honest. It's not in your to-do list, is it? It's not in your goals, is it? Now, our goals, like, we have this cope thing of like, oh yeah, my goal is to, make a lot of money, some kind of like personal gain, and then I'll give back. It is, isn't it? It's like, oh, like I'll gain first and then I'll give back. That's pretty much most people's goal. What this course showed was that the act of being kind today will have a positive impact on your success and happiness. So you may, this is a TLDR. If you obviously go watch the course to get the full understanding, but this was like my perception of it, which was literally, okay, start being kind today, start tipping people today, start like giving like random gifts to people today. Don't think, oh, let me wait. Oh, like I'm not so like wealthy right now, so I'll wait up until I'm wealthy, then I'll do it. Because the amount, like, for an act of kindness, it was as small as like $1 to $5 would like positively, you might think, oh, well, I don't want to spend $5, I don't have that much money. The amount of like happiness and success boost that people were getting from it was like high ROI. It was very high ROI. And obviously it's that thing again where it's like, if you're in more of a less wealthy country, then you'd probably spend less for your act of kindness. And if you're in more of a wealthy country, wealthy area, then you'd spend more. There was an interesting thing about that. Me and my friend Sam just went to a cafe, like this restaurant nearby, and our bill came out to 1,009 baht or 1,006 baht, and that's about £30, I think. And so Sam already had the 1,000 out, and then he's gonna get the extra 9 or something, and he wants the tip as well, but he's kind of like new to like social interactions, so he pulls out like an extra 20 baht and like adds it to the tip, like feeling kind of proud of himself. And the woman doesn't really react in any way when he says keep the change. And I just kind of look over to him because he's obviously forgotten what the conversion rate is, and I just said, like, you just told her to keep the change, like you just tipped her the equivalent of like 17 pence, like 20 cents. And obviously, you know, he feels bad and he's like, oh, fuck, like, you know, his mind just kind of forgot of the conversion rate and everything. But I told him this lesson, which I've learned as well, which is like, tip a good amount. Tip about, you know, if you're going to tip like a waiter or something, tip them about like an hour of their wage. That's like a good amount that like people kind of are taken back. And then I told him the story of this, I don't know if I should tell you the story, but I told him the story of like someone I tipped who I ended up having like a very, very loving time with afterwards. And potentially it started because of that first impression of me being like a kind, generous person. Gratitude is another big thing I've mentioned so many times on my channel. I really hope, you know, I'm saying all this, I really hope that you have the mindset of like, oh yeah, well, these, you know, with a sense of excitement, like, oh, there's so many things I could do to improve my mental health. I feel like so many people, and of course this is what mental illness really does too, so many people feel kind of hopeless and nihilistic with this, where they don't really understand or even want to consider that they actually can play like a big part in their mental health improvements. And I really hope that you're at this stage, if you're watching this right now, you're like, fuck yeah, tell me more ideas. Like, this is fucking sick. Like, I didn't even realize there was like random things, but you're telling me like with just £5 I can go tip someone and I'm gonna be happier. Like, you can visualize it in your mind and think like, yeah, well, yeah, of course I'd be happier if I did that. Imagine you just tip someone like their hourly wage and they're like, oh my god, thank you so much. Of course you're gonna be happier doing that. Like, this, it's so nice to, you know, just let me just take a break from like giving you the steps and just say, bro, like, it's so important to have that kind of like growth mindset, you know, that ability, that optimism to think like, yes, I can make a difference here. Of course these things could have a positive impact. Of course these things that I'm discussing here could help me make progress to have better mental health. So I'll cover the next few quite quickly because this video is going to be very long and it's 8:30, it's almost my bedtime. And gratitude is the kind of scientific formal version of happiness. Happiness is like very wishy-washy. I prefer the term grateful gratitude because it's like you have your control over it. Happiness is just something that you feel sometimes. But gratefulness is something that you can induce right now. 5 seconds ago, you weren't grateful. But right here, right now, I'm grateful for that glass over there. Boom. Have you ever heard someone say that, bro? Like, fucking just a normal ass glass, bro. I'm grateful for this glass. I had a drink in here the other day. Someone made this, like some company made this. It's as simple as that. And I know that seems really silly. Like, oh, he's grateful for a glass. That's kind of weird. That's incredibly powerful. There's a lot of research on this, and I know like there's a lot of people who will want me to like cite the research in this video. I'm not that kind of guy who like I'm gonna go and like find these like studies for you or anything. Either like you can believe me or you don't have to believe me, you know what I mean? But there's a lot of studies that I read and like, you know, books I've read and like podcasts I've listened to that have quote studies saying like gratitude is really the super like powerhouse for positive emotions inside of you, because it's totally within your control to just take a second right now and just ask yourself, okay, what am I grateful for, / how can I be grateful for X? And for a lot of people, they don't really come up with anything, or they ask me the same question, which is like, oh, well, you know, I'm grateful for my family. And then, you know, I tell them, okay, well, express gratitude every day, write it down, you know, do something to kind of like emphasize this. So like gratitude journaling is a very beautiful practice where you just kind of like write the thing that you're grateful for. So a lot of people ask me the same question, which is like, oh, well, Hamza, can I just write the same thing down every day? You might have had that idea where, oh, well, can I, you know, but will it help me if I just keep writing every single day, right? I'm grateful for my family. And then tomorrow I'm grateful for my family. Then the day after I'm grateful for my family. And I always just say to those people, I'm like, bro, you're not a child. Just spend 5 minutes literally just being introspective and just ask yourself, okay, what am I grateful for? And pick something like slightly new. Of course, you can say the same thing multiple times. Of course, like, you know, you've got to be very grateful for your family and like certain things. But take some time to just sit in the feeling of gratitude and gratefulness. It's a very, very beautiful thing to just sit there and to just ask yourself that question, what am I grateful for? If you just think about it, it's like meditating, which is really nice. If you write it down, that's even nicer. If you write it down and then tell that person, and you know, if you're grateful for a person, if you tell them, that's top level. My life fully changed forever. Like my entire family's life changed forever when I was taking that course, the Science of Wellbeing, you know, where I'm getting these points from. And the instructor spoke about this practice of writing a letter of gratitude. So this is where you think, okay, who am I grateful for? Let me write a letter to them. I wrote one to my father about 2 years ago. So 2 years ago, I moved back home. Like, you know, I lived out into the city. I was a student and everything. And then I moved back home, and my relationship with my parents and even my siblings has always been very like abusive and toxic and traumatizing. And especially with my father, I didn't see anything positive about him for all my life. Like anytime if I thought about him, I'd see like negative things in my mind about him. Like a lot of like abuse and violence and everything, and yeah, aggression, threats. But for this practice, for this course, I sat there and wrote this letter for him saying, okay, what am I grateful for? And I thought, you know, I wouldn't say much. but the words just kept writing themselves. And I realized, like, I wrote, you know, like a whole page and like the back of a page, and I realized like that was the first time that I ever actually thought of him positively. And there was a lot to say, you know, when you have this perception of someone, it's like, oh yeah, they're entirely bad, they're 100% the enemy, and then you take a moment to kind of question that belief, as I did here. And there was so much for me to say, that he's worked his entire life for me and for my siblings, that he had an amazing job in Pakistan, which is where I was born, but he moved to the UK. He didn't really even want to come here. He moved here so that his children could have a British education. And he struggled, like him and my mother struggled. Like they were pretty well off in Pakistan. And they really struggled here with racism, with low paying jobs. My dad, like, I was never able, you know, like when you're a child, you just kind of see your parents go to, you know, my dad was like a solo earner. I just saw my dad go to work. I didn't think anything of it. It's like, yeah, that's normal. But as soon as I got my first like full-time job and I realized the world of work is not like, you know, what it's made up. You know, as a child, you think, oh, it's like a man in a briefcase going to work, hee like, and then you get your own fucking job. You work like some job that you don't like, and you realize how much of your soul gets destroyed when you don't like the place that you work. And I quit after a month and literally just struggled with like low amounts of money because I switched over to like a part-time job. And then I'm thinking, like, my father has worked full-time, if not even more than full-time hours for 20 years in jobs that he hasn't liked. His exact words to me when I told him this was that 400, 500 people worked below him. He was like an engineer in a paper mill factory, like very high up there, like, you know, used to be called like a sir and everything by the guys who would work there. Hundreds of people worked below him, like he would give instructions and everything. And when we moved to the UK, he's worked like a labourer. Those were his words to me. And then he said that he has no regrets whatsoever. All three of his children graduated with a British university degree. That, like, maybe if you don't really relate to this, but that's an Asian, especially like Pakistani, Indian, like Asian parents' dream, like ultimate dream. And he achieved it. And I was never like appreciative of that. I never even saw the positivity of that. I thought like, oh, education, who cares? And there was this one point around this time where I literally thought like, my English is fucking phenomenal. It's a weird to, you know, swear like fucking, but like it's weird to swear for that sentence. But like, I'm a native English speaker. Urdu, which is the language in Pakistan, was like my first language, but English is like always has been my main language. And the reason why I'm telling you this story is because for all of my life, I didn't know, it wasn't in my mind that he had done this, that my father had like actually sacrificed his life for mine, because I was blinded by hate and by trauma. And so this simple practice of literally 10 minutes of just writing down on a piece of paper what I was grateful for him, and I brought him into my room. You know, you have to like take action sometimes. You're about to do something fucking cringe or like uncomfortable. So before I could even like second guess myself, I just shouted his name, told him to come in, sat him down, and like just read it to him, and then handed him the piece of paper. By the time I handed it to him, he literally is like, I don't see him cry, bro, but he's like fucking like, he's tearing up, I'm tearing up, we hug each other. And it was about a year and a half later, I don't remember exactly what the conversation was, but he just kind of like, I spoke about it randomly, just randomly, like he didn't know I was about to bring it up. I speak about it randomly, he just pulls it out of his wallet. Yeah. I forgot what the other things I was going to speak about was, but improving my mental health has been the single best thing I've ever done in my life. And it feels like it's kind of like my life's purpose to really inspire my generation of men to prioritize their mental health. This is something that means so much to me, that has done so much to me and the people in my life, and the people, you know, the guys that I've had close contact with, my friends, my brothers, that I've put them onto the same practices as me, and just seeing each, like just one by one, seeing my entire generation of men's life just change because of these simple practices like meditation and kindness and gratitude and like positive thinking, spending time in nature, social connection, having like good friends, exercise and sleep. Like these things, like your mental health is everything. And I think it's of utmost importance for you to have the mindset that it's like, it's totally under your control, even though it might not be. You know, the objective truth of the universe might be that your mental health is maybe only 30% under your control, or 80%, who knows? But I think it's so much more powerful saying, nope, it's 100%. I will not allow myself to be, you know, have the thought of like, no, like depression runs in my family. I will not allow myself to think like I don't have total control over this. I think that's literally the greatest gift you could ever give yourself. You know, I've gave a lot of advice on YouTube. I've made hundreds of videos. I truly feel like a leader amongst our generation of men. And the best advice I've ever gave out is to prioritize your mental health. That whatever you want to do in life, anything, picture anything you want to do, step 0 is to improve your mental health first. When you make some like significant progress in this, which I hope that you will, which I think that you will, you'll realize the truth of that statement. Step 0 in anything that you want to do is to improve your mental health first. You can subscribe to our channel if you want to. Welcome to the cult. Do the hard work, especially when you don't feel like it. Mwah.